All right, guys, we've got a little bit of a rant video today. There's some content creators out there that are saying that and trying to convince other people that the National is a waste of time. Don't go. It's not worth going. Don't be like everybody else that wants to go. But I think that's a bunch of BS from people that don't like card shows. Maybe they've never been to a major regional card show. They probably haven't been to a national before if they're saying that. I will say with 100% confidence assertion that go to the National if you can. You won't regret it. You'll have an awesome time. It's not something that everybody can swing. I get it. I'm sensitive to that. You've got some maybe financial constraints. Maybe you're based on Australia or something. You've got some family obligations that fall in that week, that weekend. So I get it. It's not going to work for everybody. But to say that it's not worth your time and to not go, I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and it makes me a little angry. Whether you're a collector, you're an investor, you're a flipper, there's something in it for everybody. For everybody. If you're price sensitive, if you're a collector, maybe a budget collector, well, if you've been buying post-pandemic, then you can probably afford the cards at the National. If you've been buying in 2021, you can afford some cards at the National. If you've looked at what's going on in the marketplace, the trajectory is down, and not just for base high pop cards, for everything. Vintage is below peak prices. Most modern rare stuff is down. Griffey, down. Derek Jeter, down. Jerry Rice, down. Luka Doncic Silver, down. So some of these content creators, maybe one in particular, because I don't want to, make people think that I'm talking about you and I'm not, but they are saying that card show prices are not aligned with eBay, that they're too high, that dealers are unreasonable. And I think some of that might be based on, so I'm a dealer and I set up at shows. Some of it might be like repricing fatigue. Not saying that it's right. It's certainly not, it's not best business practice to do this, but maybe every month when they're repricing their inventory, they're getting a little depressed when they see that most of the stuff they have is down between 30 to 50%. Specifically between March through June is when I started to notice that. So maybe their sticker prices are high. But these dealers, most of them, this might be a shock to you, but most of them aren't top 1%ers. Most of them aren't top 2%ers, actually. And most of them aren't stupid. And the ones that do this as their primary source of income, or only source of income, which a lot of them at the National will fall into that persona, they can't afford to sit on inventories of wax and on singles without selling some of it. They need to generate cash because that's the only way that they can provide for their family. So to say that dealers won't budge, especially for the folks that never actually attend card shows, you probably, that's probably a misinformed opinion, especially for this National. This is going to be, everybody's got financial goals, right? This is going to be like the money maker. Well, that's what the intent was earlier in the year before this crash happened, but it's going to be the best chance as any for these dealers to generate revenues. Sasha T made a comment that between the January and March Dallas shows, more and more people were bringing out cards that they didn't want to sell. So you saw more and more unicorns, the grails, and then all of a sudden they were for sale. And you're going to see more of that. And the National gives people very few excuses to withhold your best cards. Most will be for sale, and those that won't be for sale will probably still be there, but they'll be showcased. Either way, every card that you could possibly want is going to be for sale. So another thing for a collector, you get to see all those cards. It's like my friend Caesar said, it's like a card museum. You can just go there and walk around. And yeah, the National, sure, you're going to spend some money on travel. And travel costs have gone up a little bit over the last few months. I get that, probably especially airfares. And you're not going to recoup all those funds. But treat it like a vacation. This is fun. It's really fun. And you should be okay with not recouping all of those funds. So another thing, if if you're an investor or flipper of some sort, guess what? Something I've noticed from the shows that I've set up at is a 100% cash buyer is very, very rare. So if you come with a little bit, doesn't have to be that much. If you come with a chunk of change and the ability and the willingness to spend that on an item without using your own cards as part of that. So instead of like a trade plus cash for another card, you just do cash for card. Well, guess what? You have a ton of leverage now because there are very few people that can do that right now, that are willing to do that. Maybe they've got too much money tied up in cards. So with dealers, they're going to love it if you have 100% cash. And that doesn't even have to be just physical cash. Obviously, that's going to help a lot too. Maybe we'll get into that. But credit card, if you just use that and obviously pay it off, do the right thing, do the prudent thing there. But you'll have a lot of leverage versus everybody else. Also, if you're not going to come with a whole lot of cash and maybe you're going to bring your cards with the intention of selling, guess what? You have an advantage versus previous years, versus January, versus the shows of last year and prior, because dealers are forced to be more receptive to trade offers now. And I've seen this just because there's only so many people that'll come with 100% cash. Because so you'll know that, in order for you to get the amount of deals you want to get done, in order for you to make transactions with other folks, you have to accept cards in a lot of cases. And I've done that in some of the shows that I've done. And in previous times, I might not have entertained those offers, but you have to now. Another thing you probably want to think about is there's going to be more customers there like you that are going to come with cards in their collection with the intention to sell. And this is probably going to be a dynamic that we've never seen quite to this extent, where there's going to be a lot of other customers trying to sell stuff, and they don't care if they sell it to a dealer or another customer. You're probably more, it's more lucrative to sell to another customer. If you sell straight to a dealer for just 100% cash, then it's probably going to give you like 60 to 70% comps, unless it's something that's really rare or desirable. So that puts even more pressure on dealers, because they're not just in competition with each other and the other dealers that are setting up, but they're in competition with other customers that could close those deals too. So yeah, dealers, again, most of them are not so well off where they can afford to not close any transactions at the National. The ones that don't price in accordance to eBay and other marketplaces are going to get their lunches eaten by everybody else. They're not going to be able to generate the cash flow they need, and that's dumb. They're just not going to do that. That's not how these shows work. That's not how dealers work. Simple understanding of market economics would tell you that. So another thing, if you are a content creator, and or just you're on social media and you have like some sort of a profile, maybe an Instagram presence, maybe Facebook's your thing, maybe it's Twitter, then one of the primary reasons why you're probably doing that is to build a brand, to establish yourself, or to network. And there's no better way to increase your brand awareness than going to an event like the National. Whether it's acquaintances that you want to meet up with, whether it's friendships, whether it's new business connections, whether you want to establish some level of connection with your customers, whatever you want to do. I know with YouTube, that's one of the primary objectives of all of us that are creating content, is to establish a brand. I'll tell you what, it's not Google AdSense for a lot of us. And this is going to be something that a lot of you already probably understand, but I'm going to mention it anyway. When transactions occur on eBay, the seller technically pays the commission, but some of that is actually passed on to the buyer. Some of it, maybe the technical term is born. Some of it is born or absorbed by the buyer. The classic situation would be a buy it now on a buy it now listing on eBay, where the seller has, they know how much their cost basis is for that card, and they want to achieve maybe a certain level of return, certain profit. For them to get to that number, they have to increase their buy it now listing price in order to get there. So what I'm trying to get to is that usually they'll adjust their prices down in the buyer's favor at shows. Because again, they have all of these goals, whether the goals on a portfolio or inventory level, a show level, or a card by card level. They're going to be able to work with you if you use cash or credit cards. But cash, here's another thing. Physical cash, as you can imagine, has its own benefits over PayPal, credit cards. I'm not really going to get into there because you kind of know where I'm going probably. But MySlabs, great platform, like 4% fees if you count PayPal, great platform. But even though that 4% might seem very minimal, and usually it is pretty immaterial, there are extra benefits if you transact with physical cash. And again, that's going to give you more leverage at a show. And we already kind of talked about that from another angle. But everybody's different. Not everybody's extroverted. I went to my first show and in 2019, and I went by myself. And I could understand how not everybody would have done that. I had the benefit of already talking to a lot of people with social media. I think only one person that I had met at the National, I had seen their face before in person, or seen him in person, because on YouTube you see faces before. So I could understand maybe you're a little introverted, you have nobody to go with, and maybe you got some social anxiety and you don't like traveling by yourself. I get it. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. I travel a lot for work, and I'm just a very independent person, so that doesn't bug me. But again, for most of you, the show will be worth it, and I implore you, try to go if you can. Try to go, and you won't regret it. It's amazing. Last thing. Everybody I know in the hobby that makes money buying and selling cards, more talking about singles than wax, but even that, even wax. Everybody I know that's successful doing that uses card shows as a channel or an avenue to buy and sell cards. They're not just using social media and eBay and all of these other platforms. They're meeting in person. And for a lot of the reasons that I mentioned, leverage, the art of negotiation, working that out. And yeah, sure, like buying raw to grade and then flip. Yeah, sure. There's definitely advantages to doing that at a card show, and maybe it's not the best time to do it now with the state of grading companies. But there's just an overwhelming number of reasons why card shows are just better for everybody. You can build relationships. And for those of you that have no interest in making content at the National, that's not your thing, recording videos, I completely understand that. Even as a content creator, when I went, it was my third priority. For me, it was 1, cards, 2, companionships, in any order, those are pretty close, and 3 was content. So I get it. And I get it if you have a different set of priorities, because some of my friends that are content creators, they do. And that's okay. There's just a lot for everyone.